Representative Tom Cotton is a Republican of Arkansas, and he's running for the Senate against conservative Democrat Mark Pryor. And recently, there are certain counties in the state of Arkansas that encountered some flash flooding, and it did quite a bit of damage, and naturally, the residents were looking for some sort of aid to try and help from the government, whether state or federal or whatever. They just wanted to recover some of their losses because it really did impact them in a very negative way. Quote, Representative Tom Cotton joined with the state's congressional delegation in a press release to announce that U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack approved a disaster declaration request by Governor Mike Beebe, the governor of Arkansas, to provide assistance to farmers and ranchers whose crops and pastures were devastated by June flash floods. So, what does that mean? That means that it looks like the federal government is going to go ahead and aid these areas in Arkansas that got destroyed and that they were hurt in a horrible monetary way. Tom Cotton himself said this, quote, I appreciate Secretary Vilsack's quick approval of Governor Beebe's disaster declaration request for the 23 impacted counties. I have heard from many farmers about the impact of the recent flooding, and I look forward to working with our friends in Arkansas to make sure farmers are able to access the emergency funds they need. So this guy, he's a conservative, he's a Republican, but you know what? At least he's standing up for the people of Arkansas, and he's saying, I'm not in favor of small government across the board. I'm not crazy. I am in favor of disaster relief, and you deserve this money. Here's my press release that says, I'm on your side, and I can't wait to give you those federal dollars. Here's the problem. As HuffPost pointed out, quote, the emergency funds come from the federal farm bill, legislation that Cotton voted against in 2013 and 2014. He said the bill is, quote, a bad bill for farmers. It was a bad bill for taxpayers. It was a bad bill for Arkansas. He voted against the bill he's now taking credit for. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Republican Party in a nutshell. Now, why do I say that? It's not just Representative Tom Cotton. Unfortunately, this is the 3,716th story that we've done where a conservative Republican does a press release. There was one example where a male Republican, not that there are that many female Republicans, did a press release and said, oh, I'm so happy that the Violence Against Women Act got passed and I'm protecting women. I'm so in favor of women. Yes, yes. Meanwhile, the local press in his region decided to look into it, and they found that he voted against the re-up of the Violence Against Women Act. And the list goes on and on. How about all the Republicans in Arizona, I think it was, they were yelping and shrieking for disaster relief when they had a disaster affect their state. Meanwhile, across the board, they voted against Hurricane Sandy funding. Across the board. Cotton also, quote, voted against standalone emergency funding when other states were in need. Last year, he was one of just a few dozen members of Congress to oppose both the $50 billion emergency aid package for Superstorm Sandy victims and the smaller $9 billion emergency Sandy relief bill. Did you know Paul Ryan was another one of these guys who voted against it? And I'll never forget this. His office had a press release, and they said, No, you don't get it. The reason why we voted against it and all these Republicans voted against it is the bill was so riddled down with pork. It was just so loaded with pork, and we couldn't, in good conscience, vote for the bill. You know how many pages the bill was? 1. Didn't have any pork in it. This was the smaller $9 billion bill, and Republicans still voted against that. So when it's aid for other people in those icky liberal states, well, maybe they're having too much gay sex, I'm saying this, so God did the thing with the hurricane and fucked them up, and I'm not going to vote to give them disaster funds. But when it's our state, please, now we need it. We're begging you, please, President Obama, give us money. We love big government. But Tom Cotton's even worse, because Tom Cotton's voting against the aid for his own state and then telling his people, oh my God, aren't I the best representative you've ever had? I got you money. Don't you realize? Get down and worship me. I'm helping you out. It's because of me that you're not having incredible financial loss. Even though I voted against the bill and I would have fucking hurt you. But just please love me.